And we are live and recording. So I'm here
Okay,
with Lindsay Smith. And Lindsay, you're the marketing and public relations manager. Did I get that correct? For the Summit Metroparks.
that's correct.
I'm talking to. Got a lot of knowledge here, and we're going to dig down and talk all about Summit and Metroparks. But I want to start out with, this is going to be in 2021, your 100-year anniversary, correct?
That's correct. We're coming up on our centennial.
And that's what's been interesting to me in the stories I've been searching. That is right after the flu pandemic of 1918, which was also on the heels of the ending of World War I. And to kind of put that in perspective to people that's listening to this interview is at that time period, the top three killers in the United States, as far as killing people on, just by death wise, was pneumonia and influenza was number one as a combined, tuberculosis, and then stomach gastrointestinal issues, which is more food poisoning, things of that nature. And the top two ones, sunlight and open air, was some of the best medicine for that. So, and then you had the war was going on, so getting outside was important. And from what of my research here, I believe it's 1916 the National Park Service started in the United States. So it's a perfect time for that. They were almost ahead of their time in thinking, and by the time the pandemic done, in 1921, the Akron Metropolitan Park District opened up. And here we are 100 years later, and it's still here. And it's evolved a lot through the time as well. And it looks like the very actual first park I wanted to see, I wasn't 100% sure, was in 1925.
That I don't know off the top of my head. You were correct. The Park District was formed in 1921. I can confirm that for you here pretty quickly.
Well, it's hard to say on the history because it seems like the park came up and then it was hard to get funding for a while. And then in 1925, someone delegated land, and that was Akron's 100-year anniversary. So Akron had been around for 100 years and then opened up a park that same year. And that was there's a memorial to it at Portage Path and Merriman Road now.
That's right. That was our first gift of land, although it's hard to say because it wasn't exactly a park. It was, a plot of land that was designated for that purpose. But as we can all see now, it didn't quite stick as the place where a true park is going to be, although it is right around the corner from Sandro and Metropark, which is definitely, our first area of land. A lot of that land was from the Cyberling family. So Park District was definitely formed because of a lot of generosity and, as you mentioned, the foresight of so many people in the area at the time. I do think that they were very much ahead of their time.
Oh, by far, by far. And then it just grew from there. Looks like in the 20s and 30s, by that point, you had 1,600 acres. And just for a point of reference, in today's time, you guys have 1,400 acres, 16 parks, 6 conservatory areas, 125 miles of trail, and 22.4 miles of Ohio Erie Canal towpath trail.
That's right. Yeah, it's 14,000 acres across Summit County. We are truly everywhere. We our tagline is "We're your backyard," and we really mean that for most people. We are everywhere, and so as we kind of alluded to before, a lot of it is due to the generosity of so many people. So much of our parkland was donated by families and just folks early on in our history. And, small acquisitions here or there have brought us to where we're at now. But it's wonderful to be in charge of what we're in charge of because we're able to conserve so much wildlife, provide green space for people, and really provide that environment that we need in our county to thrive.
And I didn't grow up in this area. I came here in 1991 to go to college, so I got a different view on the whole area. And it was amazing to me here, the parks. Where I grew up, there wasn't really a whole lot of park systems, and there was so many parks here. And I sometimes feel that the people who live here don't even realize that they're here because they're just part of them, It's almost part of our heart. So when people see that iconic green circle with the yellow, I believe it is it a maple leaf possibly in there?
Yeah.
That's a Metro Park. And I don't know if people associate that, but can you talk about just some of the Metro Parks? Like there's Firestone Metro Park, there's Cascade Valley, there's Sand Run. Can you just name off a couple of iconic parks?
Oh, absolutely. I think you're right that the parks have very much become iconic for so many people around here, and it is really easy to take them for granted. We hear that all the time, on social media, people reaching out by email. They tell us all the time that they've moved away and they had no idea that this doesn't exist other places. So they're really underwhelmed a lot of times when they head out to a new spot and realize that Summit County is not how it is everywhere. So we're very lucky, and it's really due to the generosity of so many people who let us continue what we do. And so I think a lot of the parks that people think of the most are probably the ones around Akron, which are our oldest parks. So Sand Run Metroparks, certainly. I don't know that there's anyone in the Akron area who hasn't taken a drive through the vehicle Ford. I know I'm like you, I'm not from the area originally, and my now husband at the time had taken me through, and we were taking a drive through Sand Run, and driving through that Ford, I was blown away. I felt like a little kid again, driving through, splashing through the water. So I think that is definitely one that folks remember. And certainly Goodyear Heights Metro Park is another one. As you mentioned, Firestone Metro Park. These are tied to Akron's early industrial days, and the communities that were set up in those areas. I think a lot of folks have great memories of those parks, and they continue to be some of our most popular parks. So there's certainly a lot of parks that are clustered around the Akron area. And then as time has gone on, we've spread out and made sure that we're throughout the county.
I had that exact same reaction when I went through this first time. I'm like, we're going to take this through the water and this road. I mean, I thought that's some. To me, yeah, I grew up in Southern Ohio and we went off roading and did that kind of stuff, but it wasn't like the main road. But yeah, it's just such a beautiful area, and it's amazing to me that that is like literally right around the corner from downtown Akron, and you would never know if you're standing in downtown Akron that that's right around the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. Our bi-monthly publication is called Green Islands Magazine. And I don't know if most folks know this, but one of our early directors came up with that terminology and was quoted, our parks are like green islands in an urban landscape. So they're like these little spots where they're not far from urban areas, but we've got these green spaces that are sprinkled throughout, and they've been very important over the years.
And I mean, I full disclosure, I love the parks. I spent a lot of time in the metro parks and ungodly amount of time. It's just it's my place to go and relax, and I'm really blessed to be so close to these trails. Let's talk about the conservation areas. What do those look like? Where would those be found, and what entails those locations?
Yeah, so we, as you mentioned, have several conservation areas. And, before I talk a little bit more about them, a big part of Summit Metro Parks' mission is conservation. So, certain parks and areas exist for active recreation, and we like to have a balance of both. So we want to bring people to the parks and have people engaging with us, but we're also here for the nature component and the conservation component. So our conservation areas are land that we manage that is not open to the public because we've identified special habitats that are on that land. So a good example is up in Twinsburg in the area of Liberty Park. We have several conservation areas up there. It's a very unique part of our county because of the sandstone ledge structures that are up there, rather features. And so that type of environment can harbor so many special species of plants and animals. And so we do have several federally threatened species that reside in our parks, and it's something that folks may never know about because it's not necessarily the flashy types of things you think of when you think of endangered species like tigers or something like that. We're talking about special plants, special insects, special water creatures, but we have some really cool things, including bats. So those are the areas where our conservation staff usually focus in on when they're contributing to science. Really, for the state of Ohio, we keep an eye on what types of creatures are residing in our parks, and we're able to report on that data. So the conservation areas are very important so that we can kind of keep our ecosystem thriving.
And it's great for, I'm sure there's probably learning attached to those areas too, so people can actually take the kids there, since schools are unlocked on now at this moment, and who knows how long it's going to be.
Yeah.
We can go and learn some stuff, and hands-on education is
Yes.
perfect for that.
Yeah, we do have a lot of opportunities, especially with, as you mentioned, with folks being at home. We've got some opportunity to share some footage that our biologists have taken when they're in conservation areas and other park areas, so that people can have that once in a lifetime up close look at something very cool that's happening.
So I want to talk about the hiking trails. Just wow, this is amazing hiking trails for all levels of hiking too. It's not just there's easy hikes, and there's some hikes that they'll wind you and it's going to be tough to get to, but they're nonetheless beautiful places to go and interesting things to see. So you can talk about some of those 125 miles of hiking trails that you offer.
Yes, yes. Actually, I think at this point we're probably over 150. We've been adding some mileage here and there, including mountain bike trails. So our hiking trails, as you mentioned, are very diverse. There's really something for everyone, and we do that intentionally. So someone who would visit summitmetroparks.org and looked through our lists of parks and trails would see that we have a key that indicates what type of trail, like what type of surface we're talking about, whether that be paved, crushed limestone, primitive, just earth. And then it has a number 1 through 3 that will indicate the level of difficulty on that trail. So that way folks can choose the ones that are right for them.
And you mentioned, I know there's bike trail that's like on the towpath. You can ride your bike on there, but you said mountain biking. Is there also mountain biking separate trails? And can you talk about
Yes.
that?
Absolutely. So, regular bicyclists have been using our multi-purpose trails for years, but more recently, we have added special mountain bike trails that are made specifically for mountain bikers who want that type of experience. So, we have mountain bike trails in the mountain bike area of Hampton Hills Metro Park in Akron. So, we call it part of Hampton Hills Metro Park, although it's separate. So, it's off Tice Road. We have, over 7 miles of mountain bike trails now, and they're always adding to them. So I think, we're sort of halfway through what we envision we could have in that area. So there are all types of levels of mountain bike trails as well, beginner through advanced. So we've gotten great feedback from our mountain biking community. Folks love them. It's really exciting. So if you're new, we've got a loop where it's not too difficult, but if you really want that adventure, they're really something. I don't know how folks do it. I'm not a mountain biker.
And I saw on your homepage, was it 5 million visitors? Is that you
Yes.
right now?
Annually. So it's visits. So
Yeah,
not necessarily
I chalk up
unique.
photos myself.
Yes, we do account for 5 million visits annually. It's, I think, due to the fact that we are throughout the county, and we have a couple of really popular roadways, including Sand Run Parkway, which really get folks into our parks. And give them a new way to experience them. So we are very proud of the visitation. It's just another thing that tells us that folks appreciate us, and we're really grateful that they're still coming to see us after 100 years.
So now, wow, I mean, you're getting a rush of people coming into the park system, unlike any before. I mean, I used to go, my schedule's not dictated from working 40 hours Monday through Friday, so I like to go to the park on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the off days. Now, every time I go, it's what day is it? And not that I know anymore, but it's like it's Saturday, it's Sunday. So let's talk about now how that influx and how people are dealing with it, and your guidelines and suggestions and restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about all that.
Yeah. So right now is definitely an unprecedented time. We are, as you mentioned, seeing very heightened park usage, which is a great thing because we want to be there for people, and we want people to have that release and that place where they can go and unwind and have somewhere to remain physically and mentally healthy through such trying times. Parks are open as an essential activity as deemed by the state of Ohio, which is great. We do ask that folks observe a few special considerations when they come visit us. So certainly staying home if you're sick, making sure to wash hands, hand sanitizer. We have some of our restrooms are not open right now, just due to supply shortages and to keep the public safe. So just making sure to prepare ahead of time for that. And then, of course, everybody's favorite, we want to socially distance from one another. So that's staying 6 feet apart from each other, even though you're outside in the park. It's still important to maintain distance. So we tell folks that now is the time you might want to visit a new park that maybe won't be as busy as some of our more popular areas. So, check out our website and find a park that is maybe a little bit further than you typically go if you're able to get out. But we have a few options of areas listed on our website that are typically not as busy. So it's just something to keep in mind when folks come out.
And ultraviolet light, it's not a bad thing. It's always good to get out there and get some exercise. And my big hope out of this, that people will learn to appreciate nature a little more. Give back when they can, not litter, when they're out. And maybe another thing we can talk about here along this, you have a 2020 ballot issue, and voting is still in limbo now, so there's still votes. So can you talk about the 2020 ballot issue?
Yes, the parks are on the 2020 spring ballot, which is, as we all know at this point, had gotten pushed back from the original March 17th date. So voting by mail through the end of through April 28th, I believe. And so, we're just going to wait and see how that goes. But folks are asked to renew a small tax levy with a small increase as well. So we, again, have more information about that at summitmetroparks.org. But that is something that we have right now. And so we just hope that folks are able to help us continue to be around for another 100 years.
I mean, it's well-deserved. It really is, for so many reasons. So many reasons. Now, another thing for people coming to the park, being prepared to bring their own water bottles and restrooms. Can you talk a little bit about that? Now, of course, we have all that shut down.
Yes. Our water fountains are not on right now, of course, to just limit cross touching of surfaces. So we do ask that folks bring their own drinking water when you visit the park. And even when possible, if you can carry out any trash that you have, it just helps protect other folks and our staff, just making sure that we're able to limit touch of other people's items as much as possible. And yes, as you mentioned, just restrooms, some are closed right now, and the others that are open, we have limited to what we're calling emergency use only. So if possible, make other arrangements for restrooms.
Yeah, I'm one of those guilty people that take a garbage bag with me and stuff it with much if I find. Not that I think the Metroparks have that much garbage, they don't. But occasionally, somebody leaves something and you got to pick it up, and it happens. So
yeah.
I put a glove on. You don't got to touch it with your hands, and you can pick up some garbage and make things beautiful. Leave it better than what you found it is the way I look at it. So hopefully people will. You have an interesting thing coming up here, a virtual 5K tour, or not 5K tour, but a virtual 5K. What's a virtual 5K?
That's a great question. This is another first, as a lot of folks are going through this. There's a lot of firsts. So for us, this is the first time we're offering the Mother's Day 5K, which is typically held every Mother's Day Sunday, as a virtual event. So what that means is you now have the entire month of May 1st through 30th, and you are able to run at the place of your choosing. So it's very much on the honor system. You run your 5K. It could be on a treadmill. It could be out in a neighborhood. It could be in one of the Metroparks, wherever you'd like to do that. And so then you'll just self-report your time. And we're still offering T-shirts with that. But the really special thing about this is runners have the option when they register to have a dollar for dollar discount on their race registration for donations made to Summit County's COVID response fund through the United Way. So that option to donate is right there and run sign up for folks that are able, and you get the benefit of being able to run and support the community at the same time and do it all on your own terms. Still get a great T-shirt. Kids 14 and under are free, so it's a great family activity. And so we hope that folks will enjoy taking part in the event that so many have looked forward to for so many years, in a slightly different way.
And can you do relay teams too? So it's not just one person. Can you do a couple ones so people could only do, I don't know, a quarter of it? And is that feasible too?
I haven't been asked that before, but I think, with the virtual aspect, I say why not? I think you can do it in that way, but per registrant, there will only be one T-shirt. So I think, you might have to split it up and do it through different registrations. But with this being an honor system thing, I think there's a lot of room for folks to get creative and run the race in the way that best suits them.
Maybe I can get 10 other people and I can actually run a marathon for the first time.
Yep. 5K is not quite as bad. I think it's around 3 miles.
Well, I guess I could do that. Yeah. I don't want to. Maybe I couldn't. I can walk a lot, but I don't know. I don't run much unless I actually. That's just me. Your website is really good, by the way. It's a resource of maps and information, and I should have looked it on my mobile phone. I'm assuming it's mobilized and just as good on there, but talk to me a little bit about how good that website is so people actually go and look at it. I mean, you can plan out your year on that thing and just find there's so many things to do. Not that it's a planner, but there's a lot of stuff you can choose from there.
It has a wealth of resources. So I'm first of all, I'm very glad to hear you say that you think it's a great website. We worked very hard to make it something that we felt people would be able to use in the best way possible. And as part of that, as you mentioned, it is completely mobile friendly. So that was a big priority for us a few years ago now when we did this redesign. But you're right, we have almost everything you could be looking for related to Summit Metroparks on that website. So if you need to find a park or trail, you can do that. We've got maps that folks can download that are really detailed and have everything you might need to know about your park visit. We also have a portion of the park pages that is dedicated to history. So, some of the more interesting things that you had touched on earlier about our past and the early years of the park district, you can learn a little bit more about the place where you're going to visit. We also have some really great resources for folks at home. We've got some content that we're calling our At Home in Nature series. And so this is a series of downloadable PDFs that are nature quizzes, nature-based crafts, learning opportunities, all kinds of things. We've got those types of resources as well. And we also have a place where folks can view our programs and events. So of course, those are put on hold through at the time we're talking through May 10th is when we have those canceled really. But in the future, when we're able to pick things up in whatever way that looks like, I think that's one of our really strong suits is having so many great opportunities for folks to interact with our naturalists through programming as well.
Great. And a great answer so far. I've got a lot to work with here. I have a few more questions, but I want to see if there's anything that I haven't touched so far that you might want to bring up that you want to haven't brought into the conversation thus far.
I don't think so. I guess the only thing that I didn't mention, I will say you've done a wonderful job of touching on all of the relevant things. The only thing that I probably should have tacked on to the portion where we're talking about just everything related to COVID-19 changes is that by the time this airs, who knows what's going to happen as far as new guidance from the state. So we're always keeping an eye on what the current public health recommendations are and following those. So it's an ever-changing situation, and the best way for folks to stay up to date with what Summit Metroparks is doing in response to the pandemic is to visit the website, summitmetroparks.org. And right on our homepage, there's a button to get to our COVID-19 updates. And so we keep that very much updated day-to-day basis if anything changes. So it's just something to keep an eye on as everything develops throughout the spring here.
And I was going to touch into that because that's important that people look at that and follow the rules. I mean, this is so important to the mental health and well-being of Northeastern Ohio. And I mean that completely serious, is to have the park system open. And if people don't follow those rules and go and, don't give the social distancing proper, it eventually might get taken away from us. So we really need to follow these rules. This isn't, someone telling you what to do. This is about saving lives.
Yeah.
I can't stress the importance. So look at that page, people. Check out and just follow them. What's the big deal of staying 6 feet apart and being respectful? It's not that hard to do. And if you follow the rules, the parks will stay open and we'll be able to keep the stuff. So
yeah, you're right. We're very grateful to the folks who are able to observe those guidelines to help us stay open. It's very important.
And it's free. This is a free event. You don't have to. It is such a wonderful. People go to the zoo and spend money, and then you see exotic animals you don't see every day. But you can walk through the parks, especially this time of year in spring. Birds. There are birds traveling through here from all parts of the world, migrating. You're never going to see, and they're only going to be here for a couple of days. So yeah, we have exotic animals in the woods, and there's a lot of things you can see, and it's free. Can't say enough good things about that. Let's see. Anything coming up in the near future besides the 100th anniversary? That's important. And that's next year. I mean, what can we expect with that?
Yeah, we are in full gear planning for our centennial right now. So we don't have a whole lot of details to share, but we've got some really cool things in the works. There's going to be some opportunities to get some very cool special centennial branded merchandise and gear and collectibles. And hoping to have some other fun activities for folks to be able to do in the parks and ways that folks can celebrate along with us. So it's like I said, we're very much in full planning right now, and hopefully very soon we'll be able to kind of start teeing up for our centennial, which, as you mentioned, starts in 1920. I'm sorry, we were formed in 1921, so we'll be celebrating in 2021. So it's right around the corner, and we're very excited. You mentioned something else, or you were talking about something else coming up. I thought of something to mention, although it's we don't have a whole lot pinned down for it, but a lot of folks enjoy the Summit Metroparks Spree for All, which is our hiking series that starts in the spring, is similar to the fall hiking spree that so many people enjoy in fall time. Our spree for all right now is on a delayed start. So typically this event starts May 1st. We won't be able to start that until at least May 11th, but it very well could be a little bit further out as well, based on the types of recommendations that we see coming through from the state. So my best advice is just to keep checking back. We're going to be sure to share that information as soon as we have it. But we know a lot of folks enjoy that event, which is a hiking series for people of all abilities on flat, easy trails. So it's definitely an accessible, great thing to do with kids or really anyone of any ability. So it's a great program. We're still hoping to have it. It's just going to be kicked down the road just a little bit. So bear with us, and we'll get something going as soon as it's available.
And so for the time being, when people come out, just so I recap here, bring your water with you. Make sure you use the restrooms before you get there. If you happen to see some garbage along the way, you might as well pick it up, help clean things up a little bit. And if you get to a place and it's a little bit too crowded, there's other places you can go to. You don't got to go to that same one spot that everybody goes. Expand your horizons, because every trail has something to offer. I mean, really, whether it's beautiful trees, beautiful valley views, whatever it may be, there's all kinds of wonderful things. Lindsay, thank you again so much for your time today. I greatly appreciate it. Keep up the amazing work at Summit Metroparks. I'm a big fan. I love it. I hope more and more people go out there and realize how important it is, and we need to keep this. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me on and for spotlighting all the great things about Summit Metro Parks. And thank you for your passion for the outdoors. And I think it really shines through. You're very knowledgeable about our park, so it's been really fun to talk.